welcome to the Autism News Network podcast. We've got a very special guest with us today, Elvis impersonator Aaron Smith.
Woo! Thank you very much.
And our first question goes to David.
Where was you born at?
I was born in Appleton, Wisconsin.
Cool. And our next question is going to come from Christina.
How did you discover your singing talent?
Well, oh gosh, high school I was in choir, and because I didn't really fit in with. I had some friends, but I didn't really fit in. So I joined choir, and I had a really, really, really interesting choir teacher, Abby Schmidt, who was into the Beatles, and she kind of coaxed me and coached me and helped me out a little bit. So I'd have to say high school.
How are people finding you on social media?
I don't have a lot right now. I have my personal Facebook page, but that's about it right now. Just on my personal page, I post all my stuff on there.
Cool. And our next question is going to come from the Godfather.
How long have you been doing this?
I always say professionally 4 years, non-professionally probably since I was 7 or 8.
So you go back a long time in terms of your passion for Elvis music.
Yeah, I can't remember a time where I didn't like him. I mean, I remember every Christmas or so often we would have all the family over at my parents' house, and we'd have a big tree and all that. And I would come in the living room, and I always say this is funny. Every time I give an interview, I make sure to tell this story because it's just so funny. I would take a plunger and a pencil, and I would tape the pencil to the plunger like it was a mic stand, and I would sing to everybody in the room.
Oh, that's hilarious. No concern about germs there, right?
No, and not back then. I say my generation was lucky because my parents still made me play in dirt and eat, and we wasn't sanitized everything like it is now.
Yeah, exactly. That is hilarious. Our next question comes from Ainsley.
Which song of Elvis's is your favorite to perform, Aaron? Which one is it?
Oh, probably I would have to say that's a toss-up. CC Rider, which is what I open every show with the group on stage, and then Suspicious Minds. Those would have to be.
CC Rider? I've never heard of that one.
It's an obscure one. It's later years he opened with that from like 70 to when he passed in 77. He would open every show with 2001 Space Odyssey, and then he would go into CC Rider as the opening song.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So I would say Elvis had it before Star Wars had it.
Have you ever been, Aaron, to the Graceland Ranch?
I have, and actually, I was, when I got that in the email, I was very pleased that someone asked that question, because there's a very intimate story that now that this gentleman has passed away, I'd like to share. I was down there in 2017 for Elvis Week, and the Memphis Mafia was having a reunion meeting of some sort. And the Memphis Mafia was Elvis's inner circle: George Klein, Marty Lacker. They're all in their 70s and 80s by now. Well, he has since passed away, but I was in there, and I was still in my costume because, it was 88 degrees. I just wanted food. I was wiped out. I just wanted food. So we went in there, and George Klein happened to be there at the time. And now George Klein is Elvis's, they go back to Humes High School in the 50s. Elvis's best friend, and later became bodyguard and kind of mentor to what my friend Sebastian is today. But I got to meet with him, and we got a picture together, and we got to talk a little bit. And so that was, yes, I've been to, and then we did Graceland, and I mean, that was, for me, for everybody, it's a different experience if you're an Elvis fan. But for me, it was so surreal. It was so emotional. You're expecting him to, walk down the stairs, and everyone goes, well, you're gonna cry. You're gonna, no, I'm not. I did. I did when I got up to the grave area, because it was just, it's so, even with the spelling, how I spell my name, it was emotional. So yes, I have been. Very emotional experience, very cool thing.
Oh, absolutely. And what about the spelling? You have the same first name as Elvis's middle name. Is that what you mean?
Correct, yes. 2 A's.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Wow, that's really cool. I'd love to go there sometime.
It's not as big as it looks. When you see it, it's massive. It's big, but I've heard from a lot of different people, and even in Elvis's inner circle, it was big for the 50s.
Yeah.
It was big for the time. It's not for now. It's not really that big as far as star films go.
Okay, cool. What a great experience. We're going to move now to Kyle, who has our next couple questions.
Yes, how did you first link up with your bandmates? And for the second part, how are you still in communication with them today?
Well, Kyle, I will have to say, I first linked up with my bandmates. Actually, there's a place locally in my city that they do a live band karaoke thing. And I started going down for that. And Harold, who plays guitar in my group, gave me the idea to start a band. So it would have been there. And we went from there and played a couple different shows, and we discovered, he had another friend who was in a different band, that they had friends, and we ended up forming our own band, Aaron Presley and the Wipeouts. And to answer the second part, texting, social media. We text, but we haven't seen each other a lot since, everything got locked down. And since I canceled the tour, we just social media, texting, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to stay in contact with everything going on. I can understand that.
It is. Then I'll tell you, on the Asperger's and autism side, it sucks because I'm a extrovert, not an introvert. So I like people. I love being around people.
Now, what are your audiences like?
Mixed, very mixed.
Yeah. Do they get into it?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Not all the time, but usually when we play at certain places, they will.
Might sound strange, but do you have women screaming at you and stuff?
Rarely, but I will say there's been 2 or 3 times where I don't give up the scarves, because I have a buddy there's a guy in Las Vegas who I get my costumes from, and so I don't give up my scarves as often as I would like. I rarely give them out, actually. I'm trying to think back. But no, I don't. But I'll do the kisses and the handshakes, and this is pre-COVID, so I'm not doing it now.
Yeah.
But I do rarely, and usually it's the older generation. It's not really a lot of. I'll get the young girls here and there, but not all the time.
I think Kyle has a really fun question coming up. Go ahead, Kyle.
Have you ever, or would you ever, enter an Elvis impersonator contest?
Would I enter a contest? Yes, I have in the past.
How did those go for you?
Fair. I was new to and this would have been a while ago, but I had been new to the Elvis thing it was my first contest, and it was okay. It wasn't wonderful because I was kind of new to the thing, so it was interesting to see how much the guys get into it. It was different. But it was fun. Because, see, the costumes are so expensive that I can't afford a jumpsuit. I couldn't afford, when I first started, I couldn't afford a lot of the blingy stuff. So I just went to Goodwill, and I went with a black suit. And I ended up borrowing a buddy's belt for the contest, which, you're not supposed to do, but I didn't have much as it went for a costume at that time. So
I can understand that because I try to go to comic book conventions and cosplay a little bit, and I don't have much to start out with for that. So I can understand where you're coming from.
And that's interesting, Kyle, that you said that, because a lot of these Elvis conventions, weeks, festivals, the younger guys, not the older people who don't really get that, but the younger guys, we compare it to like anime, cosplay, Comic-Con, that sort of thing, because we're all kind of not weird for a week as we look at it, because we're walking around dressed like Elvis.
Yeah, that's really cool, to have those times when, you're among people who are just like you in terms of their interests. That's really awesome.
I have not met anyone on the spectrum, though, being in the tribute world, and that has at times run me into some difficulty, just social-wise. Like, I have my own inner circle and my own kind of team of people, but when we're in different states, it sometimes, those social pieces don't always align real well, and people are like, does he have feelings? Does he get cold? No, I'm just kidding. But that sort of thing.
Sure. I'm glad that you mentioned the autism and some of the struggles there. Chris has our next question related to that.
When were you diagnosed with autism?
2007, 2008-ish.
Was it a shock when you found out?
Yes and no, because at the time I didn't really know what it meant, and in the early 2000s there wasn't really much for it. I was already getting, in elementary school, kind of like, I was already weird. I really didn't have any friends. I was already considered weird, so I was like, great, this is one more thing to add to the pile. So I didn't really understand it at first.
Our next question is going to come from Patrick, kind of following up on that.
How does autism affect your performances, and have you had any special training to cope with challenges?
Well, to be honest with you, I haven't really had any training. I've always been a very social person. I like the spotlight. I like the attention. I like making people smile. First of all, that's my thing. If I perform and someone leaves with a good memory or positive, I say we've done our job. Secondly, the only way in my idea or eyes, as like I said, when I said inner circle, a lot of people around me who I, am honest with and let in on how my brain works, how it affects my performances. I would have to say sometimes when when we're done with the show and it's, back to earth, back to, normal, as, sometimes I can't get off that high.
So like it comes second nature?
Yeah, sometimes I still, even though I'm not performing and we're backstage or we're out to eat or something, I still think I'm Elvis. So, which my buddy Sebastian and a couple of my other friends, they've dealt with that. They don't enjoy it, but they've come to accept it. So.